Okay, folks, we got us a pair of boots here, and I'm not gonna mention the name brand on this boot, but you're gonna figure it out real quick for yourself. And there's a specific reason why I'm gonna make this video here is because I want you as the consumer to just be aware of what's going on in the Western boot building industry. Uh, and but first I want to show you the reason why this customer brought me this boot in there. Okay, and all right, I want to zero into this right here. I want to show you this construction right here and why this customer brought this pair of boots in here. I have the other one to this. You're going to see the other one here in just a second, so bear with me. All right, folks, this is, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, the boot manufacturers have wavered far away from what a traditional cowboy boot sole construction should be. Now, the tops are in really good shape, all right? But back to this problem, this thing right over here. Why is this happening? You may have a pair of boots that happened to, and see, the thing that gets me as a professional shoe cobbler that's been working on boots my whole life, okay, this really aggravates me, upsets me that these boot companies think that they can get away with making this junk and charging, charging the prices they do for boots and inserting this kind of junk. Now, why did this come apart right there? Okay, because this is not a good, okay, this is not a Goodyear welt, stitched in welt right here. They glued this welt in there. This is designed, this welt, it's made out of leather, okay, but it was intentionally designed so for them to save labor and not have to sew the welt in there. They just glue it in there. Okay, it's a glue-in welt. Whenever you see these little triangles right there, okay, I'm going to come over here and show you, okay, what it looks like when it's here. You can see that would be a welt. It's black in color, but you can see them little triangles. That's so it can be glued in there and not stitched in there. Now, I'm going to go over to the other side of the shop over here and show you what a Goodyear welt looks like. Okay, a Goodyear welt has, the back of it has a channel in there, and that's where it's sewn onto the boot. But the new, I guess, junk way of doing it, and it's been going on since about the mid-90s, but nobody's ever made an educational video that I know of to inform you all about what's going on. And so the thing is, if you want to get away from this when you're shopping for boots, you have to specifically ask for if the boot has a Goodyear welted a welt in there. See, a welt is like the foundation of a house. If you don't have a good foundation, it's going to eventually fall apart. And you can see how, the sole is falling apart. Now I'm going to bring you over to the other boot right here, which is on the jack right here, okay? And I have already removed the sole from the boot so you can see, okay? I'm raising this up here so you can see this. See, that's all one unit sole. Didn't used to be like that, okay? Back a traditional pair of cowboy boots, and that, to me, when you go to buy a pair of cowboy boots, you want a cowboy boot. You don't want some injection molded, or let me say just me, I don't want an injection molded piece of junk on my boots. I want a leather heel base, a separate leather heel base, which, I didn't get one out, but we're going to go over here in my box over here, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to show you what that looks like in the raw. See, that's how we get them from our wholesale house, and that's solid leather all the way through. Now, back when I bought my first pair of boots back in the 80s, that's how my boots were made, with a solid leather base, okay? But look at the way they're doing it. They're injection molded, kind of the way they're doing cars and everything else, you know. Injection molded junk on there, where it's all one piece, and then they glue it and do some half-ass stitch job on there, pardon the expression, but it is what it is. It's junk. The thread that they used on there is just junk. Look at that. It's just junk thread. You know, they used the quality of thread on there that you would use on sewing a pair of blue jeans or something like that. On a pair of cowboy boots, it's going to be in the mud and water and everything else. Now, let's get closer onto this. Let's get closer into these boots. Now, that's all of this is under the sole, okay? And look at that name right there. They're real proud of this junk. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself. You should really be ashamed of yourself making this. This is not cowboy western wear, people. This is not cowboy western wear. Y'all should be ashamed of yourself to even put your name on that. All right, underneath the sole, look at this plastic junk. Plastic junk. Look at this. Look how this is all cracked right there. How this is all cracking. Now, when you're wearing that boot from the inside of the boot, do you want your feet to be up against leather like what you bought? Leather breathes. It forms to your foot. It's very, very comfortable to wear after it forms to your foot. That's the traditional cowboy boot. Years ago, I mean, well, he may have liked them. I don't know if he liked them, but look, you couldn't sell me this junk for anything, okay? So let's get rid of that. All right, now we're going to get rid of this. Get rid of this junk. We are not going to put that back on the boot, okay? And look. All right, so you know, this is what we end up with, and I'm going to sew in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew in a Goodyear welt into this pair of boots, and we're going to put on a Vibram sole on there, and I'm going to put the leather cowboy base that I told you about. I showed you, and we're going to build these up the proper way, okay? So, like I said, the tops on these boots, they haven't figured out a way to rip you guys off on that construction, but I'm figuring that the reason they're going this route, and I figured this out a long time ago, the reason they're going with this junk is because to save on labor cost, okay? But it's up to you guys. If you want to buy it, they're going to continue to make it. But if you go into the boot store and you look at this junk and you hand it right back to them and tell them exactly what it is, junk, I came here to buy a pair of cowboy boots, not some plastic injection molded junk from some far off country somewhere, or they may be making them right here, who knows. But it's just junk, okay? And they've gotten away with selling you this stuff. So anyhow, there it is. This is the before. I'm going to show you the after. I don't like that junk. Hey, get that junk out of here. Okay, folks, I got those boots finished for you. I completely went over them. Remember, I was telling you about the welt, the Goodyear welt. Okay, I took the old sole off, that old junky sole. Took it off, hand sewed with my needle and my wax thread. I hand sewed new welts in there, and I double stitched the sole on there. Okay, double stitched a Vibram sole on there. Notice the nails that I used on there. Those are made out of brass. Okay, those are brass nails, so they don't rust. And they in the water, the regular nails will rust, and we don't want rust on our boots. Okay, here we go on the heel bases right there. Remember I told you, solid leather base. Look at that, solid all the way through. This is the way that boots were made long before they came out with this junk, this injection molded junk. And look, I'm not bashing the name, a brand, but when it comes to Western boots, okay, they kind of just went too far for me. Somebody that's been repairing Western boots for a long time. This is just all about profit, okay? All about the boardroom, meetings that they have, and just wanting to make more profit And so they go off to a foreign land and talk to those people and ask them how they can save money making cowboy boots. Well, that's the way they make their junk over there. So they figure, well, they could save a lot of money in labor not having to hand stitch welts on, okay, not having to use real leather bases, and they can make them with a computer, just blasting them out one after another. Up goes the profit margin. You don't know anything about it. The consumer doesn't know anything. But the one thing they're not betting on is that, here, I'm gonna turn this around. Let me see here. Okay, the one thing they're not betting on is there's people like me that know better, and we have this thing called YouTube now, okay? And we can finally, we didn't have this for years, okay? We just were frustrated when this junk came in the shop. There was nothing we can do about it, but we discovered this thing called YouTube now, and we can reach out there and inform and educate you, the consumer, not to buy this junk here. And put it over here. Here it is. This one piece injection. This is not anywhere near traditional cowboy boots. Okay, this is so far off of the original traditional cowboy boot. Okay, now I'm going to turn the phone back around again. Okay, and I'm going to tell you one thing. Okay, the original traditional cowboy boot did not have a Vibram sole on it. Did not have a rubber sole. They came out with the neoprene sole right after World War II, and it is a better wearing sole. Okay, this material here, this right here is a better wearing sole. The thing that I don't like about it, it's better than leather. It will last better than leather. I just don't like the construction of how they do the boots with it. It was wavering way too far away from what a traditional original cowboy boot is. But anyway, folks, take it for what it's worth, okay? What the heck do I know? I'm just some dried up old crusty shoe cobbler. You know, look, I'm just trying to inform you. That's it. If you like, hey, like and subscribe, but you know, take this information and share it with your buddies. So when you go shopping for cowboy boots, you know what to look for. You want hand-stitched Goodyear leather welts, okay? The double stitch thing, again, let's hit on that for just a second. The double stitch didn't come in real strong until about the mid 90s. Everything only had one stitch on it. Ariat was, I believe, was the first one that came out with pushing the double stitch. I remember seeing those come in, the double stitch boots. So anyway, there you go, folks. Like and subscribe. Turn this around. Hey, I tell everybody, when it comes to Western boots, I'm your Huckleberry when it comes to fixing Western boots. Send your boots, put them in a box, send them to me. Thank you.